What is up, guys, and welcome back to the Professional Opinion Show, episode 7. What is happening, boss man?
Finally catching one in a different time of the day. So lights out, hats on, in a good mood. Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Just finished
If
my
you
workout.
if you haven't experienced the video chat of the podcast, you gotta at
Today's
least
the
check
day.
this one out and check out his Cotten's epic cowboy hat. And I was informed it's not your run of the mill average cowboy hat. This is it's
Stetson.
official.
It's official. For those who know, this is we're doing cowboy shit with this.
Oh my gosh. You are officially a free man, I think, as of this week. Yes?
Correct. I am a free man. I'm a free agent, as it were. I'm back in the private sector doing my thing. I wanted to slow roll back in, but small town, man. So people found out fairly quickly that I was back on the market. And so I'm already, to be honest, I'm already busier than I want to be this week. But actually, yeah, dude. So I beat the government to the punch, as it were, because as it was because yeah, I was still in the probation period for that GS gig, and anyone, dude, who is in probation, just for those who don't know, just I'm talking specifically for GS, for civil service gigs, right? Civilians working on military installations or with the government in some shape or form. When you do that, the entire first year is your probation period, right? Once you make it through that first year, it's supposed to be pretty hard to dig you up after that. But dude, there's a lot of ruckus going on, because there's cats out there that, they were 11 months in and some weeks holding down like engineer spots, right? I definitely was not. I was replaceable. But there's other cats that, I mean, it's happening, dude. The chops coming fast. And I just
Man.
beat them to it.
Where do you I know we just briefly touched on this. Where do you sit on that? I'm completely outsider now. All I'm hearing about is people don't wanna respond to the emails. What do you think? You're on the inside
I
there.
don't think I have some insider trader information. And at least speaking for my particular area down here in lower Alabama, the panhandle at Florida, dude. So I was already on my way out. So I wasn't worried about it at all. And mainly because the job was not, what do you know, dude? It wasn't I was. It didn't meet the brochure that I was given, so I was headed on my way out anyways. But what's funny, dude, is this is how this is all played out from my perspective again, right? I know it's happening everywhere, but from my little area down here in Okaloosa County, first came the fork in the road email, which was like they were calling you to buy, right?
Right.
Now, ironically enough, this buyout ended right along with the fiscal year, right? So this is money that was already budgeted, right?
Right.
They can say it's a buyout program. This money's already been allocated for from the government with all the employees, whatever. So, sure, a buyout, sure. So you could respond to the email and say, yes, I want to be. All you had to do, it said simply, it actually smelled like fishing with the P. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Right.
when it first came out, everybody thought like this is some kind of trap, because it literally was like, just type in resign and hit send, and you're enrolled, right? You're in the program, considered eligible for this buyout option. So when it first came out, there was a lot of hesitation. And then it was immediately followed up with emails that looked more official. Kind of like the second email that followed was like, hey, these are the questions that we're seeing that most people have about this program. Here are the answers, which is, stuff like, will I continue to collect leave while I'm sitting at the house getting paid doing nothing? Will I continue to, what if I'm retiring? Does this mess up my retirement, or am I just getting to retire early? And so when all these answers came out, people were like, oh shit, like this is real.
Right.
And last I heard, there's 75,000 people that have since responded that, yes, I resign, right? Being 20 years retired military, I've been in bed with Uncle Sam a long time. If it sounds too good to be true. It usually is, right? And so now they're starting to realize that like all these people that have hit this are now in purgatory. They're just sitting in limbo, waiting to hear something official of like this date, you're done, right?
Mhm.
Like, take it to the house. And turns out there's a lot of fine print associated with this option. One of which, from what I've heard, that's probably most damning is after they review your position, right, and your skills and what they then retain the right to be like, "Eh, seems like you weren't really in charge of a whole lot, and so we're going to lessen your pay."
Ooh.
This is a right that they retain, right? They can lessen your pay to match, like, what you were actually responsible for, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Or just decide straight up termination, right? This is and again, right, this is brief skimming on my part because it was irrelevant to me, I was already
Right,
moving
right.
on. I was actually already moving on the advice that one of my mentors told me. I entered this whole, like, world at too low of a level and, below my qualifications, and I needed and in order to come in at a higher level, I could not finish out I came in at an entry level position, but
Mm.
if I had made it through the end of probation, then I have to climb the ladder from there, versus coming in at
Ah.
a level that matches my qualifications. So I was leaving. Little did
That
I
sounds like a
know.
very government thing to do.
Yes, yes, correct. And little did I know, I was gonna get canned anyways because all this fell at the time where I was still in probation. So after fork in the road email comes out and people will decide on their own, "Hey, yeah, this sounds like a great plan for me. I'm out." Right? Well, the next big boom that came from this was then they came down, they being this the Doge
Yeah, yeah.
DOE coming down and saying, "All right, anyone who is in probation period, wherever, a week in, 11 months and 2 weeks in, wherever, if you are in a probation status, you're gone." Right?
Damn,
Um,
really?
the third thing that came down, they have temporary GS slots, right? They're just temp positions, usually up for like 2, 3 years, and then, it's kinda like a contractor, then you renegotiate,
Right, right.
right? Temp spots, they were the next to go. Anybody sitting in a temporary GS spot, right? And now the big earth shaker that's got everybody terrified is after all this has happened, mind you, all while the original push for the fork in the road, these dudes are still on standby. They're still trying
Chilling.
to figure out like,
Yeah,
"Hey, is this happening? When do I get to go? What's going on?"
right.
And what's funny, dude, is imagine this, right? Let's pretend common sense is common. But imagine this. I tell you as my employee, right? "Hey, Tyler, I know you've been here." Let's say that you're close to retirement, right? You're going to retire at the end of this year. And I
Right.
say, "Hey, Tyler, thanks for all you done. You've been busting ass for us and really killing it. We're going to reward you. We're going to let you out of work within the month if you choose to do so, and you can sit at the house, collect your paycheck, roll right into your retirement. Oh, and by the way, as long as you don't go out of town, cash in all your leave at the end for an extra check that you've been stacking up this whole time." Sounds like a good
Man.
deal, right?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Now, how how productive do you think you're going to be from then on while you're sitting for waiting for me to tell you, "Hey, all right, the 15th or whatever," right?
Oh, yeah, I'm done checked out already.
Right. And so it's only getting a little bit crazier, man, because now you have, like I said, man, 75K is the last little like rumor mill I heard of how many people have opted for this. Dude, they already essentially in their mind, right? They've already
Oh, they're
thrown in
gone,
the
dude.
towel, dude. So yeah, they're just, so they need to kind of get on the ball. But the last stake in the in the heart here for everybody who has heartburn from this is then an email came out. This was the last thing I saw on my way out the door. My last day was last Friday. There's an email that came out that subject line, dude, phenomenal, right? This is to me, it's just I am sorry for the people that have got burnt by this. I know, there's I know, like, people personally that have got burnt by this, that are hard workers, are putting in work. They're not make no mistake, dude. This was an effort to get the bums that have been hiding in their closets since
Right.
COVID, trying to collect a check, sitting in their pajamas, pretending to telework, dude, since what, 2020? And so, in my personal opinion, right, this trimming of the fat, so to speak, is necessary. There are
Oh, yeah.
literally billions of dollars they're about to save. Now, with that, are there some casualties of war? Absolutely, dude. But in the overall, I mean, anytime you do something like this, right? The first one through the wall is always the bloodiest, as they say, right?
Mhm.
So there's going to be some heartache, some downs, some of this, right? I do think they need to go ahead and just like get with it. Let's go ahead and just rip the
Right.
Band-Aid off. You know what I mean? And then start over how they're whatever they project the future is to look, what it's supposed to look like. But this last email, dude said, I shouldn't be laughing, dude, but it said, I just know how many bums, dude, that we
Oh,
need to get rid of. But it said like, "What'd you do last week?" That was like the subject line, right? For those who don't know, in the military, right, this is not an uncommon practice. They typically call it a war report, right? Like,
right.
what is it, weekly?
Yeah, action, yeah.
Yeah, weekly action report, where you're supposed to put down all these bullets of, what you've been doing all week. Should not, right? This should not be that hard to come up with if you're productive and you show up to
Yeah.
work and you get after it, right? Now, if you're the guy that's, everybody sees, everyone can relate to this. We've all taken family vacations and road trips, and inevitably, you're going down the highway. There's six dudes. Everybody uses this analogy, right? Six dudes leaning on the shovel, smoking a cigarette, smoking and joking, with one dude in the hole grinding, right? They're trying to lob the head off of those six dudes and take care of that guy in the hole, right? Easier said than done. So everybody's got this beef with the email, right? Because no one wants to say, and it can be, right? It can be kind of hard to allocate that in a manner of which someone else can understand, right? Because
Right.
you know better than anyone, dude. If I start trying to tell you what it is and I'm responsible in technical terms,
Right.
well, if you're not familiar with that field, it sounds foobar, you know?
Down to 75. Yes, like, what the hell are
100,
you talking?
dude, but 100, right? For real, like,
Right.
and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
there's gonna be people out there that have that, and it's even me, dude. I was working at a gym. How am I supposed to quantify the success of the patrons that I put through classes? You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And so there's going to be massive headache with that, but this is what no one's talking about, and I imagine because, one, it's probably different for most people, but for my what I can speak to, and without falsifying anything, is that my leadership, as soon as that email came out, sent out, I mean, on email, on text, any form of communication to get to as many people as quickly as possible, and said, "Do not reply to this. Stand by."
Wow.
Yes, dude. They said immediate, right? Because that's who's inevitably, if you're the commander or whatever, right? Director, you're in charge of, this many people. And all of a sudden it looks like all these people that you're over aren't putting in any effort. They haven't got anything done. We're not
Right, yeah,
talking
who's
about 24 hours. We're talking about a week, a work week, right?
Right,
And you can't, where are we at with this? Still, you know?
right.
And so they came out, it came all the way from the top of the head shake, came down, "Hey, do not." They even told us, I wish I still had it say, but I delete everything instantly. But it even said something to the line of, "Stand by to stand by. We are waiting for guidance from senior leadership from the Pentagon." So all the way up, dude, to come down and tell us how to formulate this response correctly, right?
Mhm.
Which is just gonna be like any other performance report, where it's gonna fill it with jargon and try to talk
Right.
about moon dust and solar flares to, space it
Oh,
out. And
man.
so what's funny, dude, is I thought when this came down, I was giggling because one, I knew that like, all right, leadership wants to pump the brakes until they, can get out. Dang gone, I can't say the word, dude.
They got
I am highly educated, but there's just some things, man, my Alabama comes through. So, I'm gonna send it on this word, and you're gonna know what the hell I'm talking about. Just let it ride, okay? You know how this goes.
now drop in the comments and tell him, man. Uh,
So, they're all sitting around saying, "Hey, pause while we whip out this thesaurus, right?
there it is. Yeah.
Whatever." And we find all these brilliant, graduate level synonyms to throw in here and make everything sound crisp and clean. And what's funny, dude, is I just saw in the news this morning, right? And I literally like had I had to go number 2, I would have done it right on the couch, bro. Because they said this morning, Mr. Tesla himself got on the news and said, if you have not responded to this email, if you ignored the commander in chief's email, you're done. Like,
Oh, no way.
why?
Oh, god.
So
Oh my god.
if you failed to get out, which I mean, think about this though, Tyler. Like, I mean, and I know 2 sides to this coin for sure, right? 2 shiny sides. And again, right, I sympathize with the people who are getting hosed in this, right? Because there will be good good folks lost and getting caught up in this. But I would argue it's probably more on the I mean, dude, people have been using the government as the best welfare program for a long, long time, right? To include them in my industry, right? There are kids coming out of college, right, in the strength and conditioning world who want nothing to do with D1 collegiate programs or the NFL or pick your 3-letter, NBA, whatever organization, right? Because there's no money in it, dude. Now the requirement is that you need a bachelor's in exercise science, a master's degree, preferably still in the same field, along with the certification that you can't test for until you get these degrees, right? And then maintaining continuing educa continuing education credits and AED certs throughout, right? But yet they want you to climb the ladder through this state-funded position at the college that only wants to give you 45K. The amount of
That's
time
just
you have to
bananas.
you live can pull more, right? So what are they doing? They're running to Big Daddy Uncle Sam because he hands out cash. And you can come straight out of there. If you land a GS-12, GS-13 as a certified strength and conditioning specialist, depending on the location, bro, you're making anywhere from 80K to 100 and right?
That's
Which,
crazy, yeah.
by the way, if anybody's been keeping up, is you're in blue collar.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
if
yeah.
Yeah, if you're hitting back in the day, that six-figure annual pay, now it's a necessity. Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
absurd.
I remember being a like a young A1C kinda new to the military, and the end of fiscal year came out, and they're like, they hand out the well, you've seen it on all levels throughout your career, but, they start handing out, "What do we need, guys? We gotta fill up this budget," and I was just
Oh,
like, that
yeah.
was so
Yeah, use it
mind
or lose
blowing.
it. Yeah, use it or
Yeah.
lose it. Yeah.
And they're like, "What? We." It wasn't at first started out honest, like, "What do we need?" Then it was like, "All right, well, we got 60 more grand we gotta come up with worth of shit. Hey, you guys need more we need some more TVs back on the wall. We need a boom box." And I was just like, "Yeah, gear for." I was like, "What?" And, like, we were in a tall, freaking 80-person comm squadron. Like, I'm like, this is happening across the freaking DOD." Like, wow.
Yes,
So to your
dude.
point, yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine like the cost savings in there. Like it probably needs to happen, but yeah, it's a little crazy. Again, they're going at it pretty aggressive, but
Yeah,
I
and,
guess
so, yes, I'm very much of the this needs to happen, and, again, I understand very easy for me to spit out when I'm not on the bad side of this, right? But I can tell you, dude, in my experience where I'm at, it is it's not 50-50 at all. It's actually closer to 80-20. I mean,
80/20 what?
80% of these people need to get canned.
Oh, yeah,
Dude,
that
I can't tell you, like, just when I was jumping ship getting out, dude, I'm trying to out process, right? And they give me it's a list of things out processing any military or civil service thing, right? It's this obnoxious list of people that you have to go find and report to get pulled off a list or whatever, right? I was a coach, dude, at a gym, right? I have to go out process the security feature. For what? What for the secrets of dieting that I know? Like the so and again, right? Like I'm trying to I've called this guy 5 times, never at his desk. You're the sole dude, right? And I know because like I said, I'm an old retired vet, right? So I know the truth. If 8 o'clock to about 11:30ish, if you haven't handled all business within that time frame, I don't care where you work. That's tomorrow me's problem now, right? Like, you're not even when they get
That's
back from lunch, dude, cats are like, they're not on the email anymore, right? It's
oh,
like
no.
yeah, you know, I've been in the private sector too, in the commercial. It seems to be same, right?
Yeah, I mean, I saw it a lot less in the, the private sector. I mean, I guess it all depends too, like, the big corporate, like, the giant companies, like, there's room I think it's anywhere there's room to hide. It's like you can kind of skate in through these little things. And I would almost argue big corporate is almost like government ish because it's like there's all these policies and groups, and this is what we do, and hang out by the coffee stand for a while and catch up and, do all that. Where it's like these small businesses, man, every like hour to them, they feel paying, they feel that wage going out. So they're like, hey,
Yes.
uh, if anything, I think it's probably, they're probably on the more of the verge of like overworking folks and like keeping a pulse on stuff too. So, I mean, it's just, yeah,
That's
I
a
think
good
it's just
point. So
that dynamic.
yes, and so the tennis club that I train at in the morning, right? I know both the business owners very well, and it's a tennis center, right? Clay courts. It's outdoors, Florida, right? Which is termed the Sunshine State. But I would tell you, it rains a whole hell of a lot down here, right? And when you have clay tennis courts, if it rains, dude, you're out of business until that rain
Man,
stops, and then you have to go out, you have to maintenance the courts, smooth out the clay, lay new clay, redo the chalk lines, like, it's work and effort, right? These poor dudes dude, one of the owners is the money 70 business-minded guy, he's the you. The other
mm,
owner is me. I'm, the hands-on worker bee, manual labor dude, cowboy hat, right? And so that dude is, bro, all the time grinding, every hour. When it rains, he gets so mad, dude, he's like, "Oh my god, dude, it's like watching my money fall out of my pocket," you know?
yeah, yeah. I bet he don't have a group of guys sitting around not looking, not doing shit after
Hell
3.
no. Hell no. Bro, he had me install cameras so he can make sure nobody's smoking and joking.
Yeah.
Like, yes, dude.
That's small
No.
business, and I didn't actually know this. I just heard this on the radio. Like small business represents 80% of the United States' is like GDP. Like it's those small businesses that everybody you think about these big corporate, but there's
Yeah.
so many small businesses.
Mhm.
That's I think the bread and butter. So it's crazy to think about. But I would have to say that's probably more the norm that I've seen is like these small businesses for getting after it. And then the time I spent in corporate, like those no matter where you go, there's always those people that
Right.
figure out they work harder to not work. I know you know
Yes.
those people than
Yes.
just to do the freaking work that's
Yes.
needed to get into that. Um, Actually, one of the things I want to talk about today was somewhat of a transition to what we've been talking about, but I think it's just actually being somebody who gets shit done. And I don't just mean like, like grinding out just doing the day-to-day stuff, but, like, you were always I think just from, like, the first week you came in, like, you were somebody who always just, like, got after it, like, no matter what somebody put in front of you. Like, I don't even know if some of the things we just gave you just to, like, figure out if he'll go out and figure this thing out, and, more often than not, you come back like, "Yeah, yeah, got this done, I did this and that," and then so I wanted to, I guess, get your mindset, and I know since then you've gone on to, keep doing shit. Like, what is your mindset around making things happen and getting stuff done?
Well, I mean, a lot of it, dude, circles back to our other 2 episodes, man. A lot of this is just upbringing, you know? I had my dad, dude, told me straight up, very early in life that like, "Hey, man, you're a boy. Like, you're gonna work. You're gonna job it. Like, that's just part of it. You're gonna be a provider, da da da. Hopefully, you have, a counterpart that can help you in that, like, financially. But even still, like, when you're off work, you're coming to do the work to keep the roof, not leaking and
Mhm,
da 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 da. Like, it's just you're going to work. So go ahead and accept that now that it's just, this is life, right? And
mhm.
it's funny too because everyone, like you said, dude, there are folks out there that work harder to avoid work than when you could just get it done and move on to the next thing. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
for me especially, right? Like what I think we severely lack now, because even when the work is done, right? And it's not, everyone wants to act like that the guy who's constantly moving and checking off the to-do list, or like, I especially again, they told me, bro, I one of my mentors told me when I came into this GS gig, they're going to hate you. They're going to hate you because you're going to show up on time, on time. If you're supposed to be there at 5, you get there at 5, you're late. On time is late, right? I'm going to be there at 4:45, right? Because that means that I was adulting and I planned for, there could be a traffic accident. There could be, I have a flat tire. I didn't know until I woke up in the morning, my rim's on the driveway, right? Like you don't, you don't time things out to the exact minute or you're planning for failure, right? Because to act like that
100%, yeah.
you're in control of life down to the second is, you're oblivious to the real world.
Right.
The so he told me, he's like, they're gonna hate you because you'll be there a little early, you'll stay till it's done, like you're gonna grind, and you're gonna find out that the mass majority wants to do the bare minimum to keep from getting fired. Like,
You're
and
gonna come in here and make all of us look bad because we just freaking having our
yeah,
coffee,
exactly, dude,
enjoying
because
yeah.
we're cool with being lazy. Look, and to each his own, man. I don't, if that's your stick, and you don't, I can't look myself in the mirror like that, right? And
Mhm.
I'm not looking for ribbons and promotions or any, I'm looking at when I wake up, can I look at me and be happy with the person that I see, right? And if that means that it hurts your feelings that I've knocked out some tasks, look, I'm 1,000 miles an hour all the time. It ain't got nothing to
Yeah.
do with you. It's just who I am, right? And
Right.
if that makes you look bad, like, I don't know, dude, drink more caffeine, get motivated, like, yeah, or get gone. Like, the thing is, and we're gonna run into this problem, dude. You're gonna see this in the future because now it's hard for us to quantify who's a hard worker and who's not, because all these kids now, dude, are coming up and they're taking these tech jobs, right? Or
Mhm.
you got like my son who has no idea what he wants to go to college for, because as it stands currently, there's no degree for influencer, YouTuber, uh, dude, and
Exactly.
you can't stare at these kids anymore, dude, and go, "That's stupid. You'll never be da da." Bull. Mr.
Right.
Beast, net worth is insane. This dude just
Oh, yeah.
launched the most successful reality like game show on Amazon
I just
Prime.
watched that, yeah.
It's an awesome show.
Oh,
It's
dude,
awesome.
it was killer, yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, what you should do is watch Mr. Beast on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I'm
And
I'm actually like a closet Mr. Beast fanboy.
so did you see that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Where, and when he was talking about school, he knew very
Yeah.
early on that like this institution crap's not for me, right?
Yep.
And I know this isn't the episode, and I know that we plan to cover this one day. So we'll circle the wagon back to school and college and how all this marketing has gone to include propaganda institutions. But the not to get off track. So it's not that I entered the job and was like, I'm just gonna give this the best version of me that I can.
Mhm.
It's all I've ever known, Tyler. I don't know. Dude, my dad had me pushing a lawnmower, paying me under the table at 13,
Yeah.
at going out and cutting subdivisions. So that instilled like, and I also learned kind of early, man, that the more of a grinder it was, right? Because cutting grass sucks, dude.
Oh, yeah.
It sucks. And let me tell you, when you're in your teens and you're pushing a lawnmower up a freaking 60-degree hill, right? I literally wore studded cleats to like get
Wow.
this push mower up this hill. And then I just try not to let it me back down and
Right,
push it
yeah.
back up and you know, and which was just unfortunate for me because my dad knew I didn't know how to operate the weed eater well enough because there is a
Mhm.
tool for every job and it makes things easier. As someone who gets in houses knows this better than
Yeah.
anybody.
Oh, god.
But so I had that like instilled super early, just jobbing it, and the harder the job, the I guess it's intrinsic motivation when you come down to it, dude, because that was more of the reward for me. And I will say, with although yard work sucked, instant gratification when you
Oh,
get to
yeah. When you get
front and
done.
yes,
Yeah.
dude, and you just look back and you're like, damn, I did that, and that looks clean, you know,
Yeah.
like, and it
100%.
and it it made me a way. And I so this does answer your question, bro. It made me a way that even today, right? If I move to I'm on the best street in my neighborhood, right? Because my neighbors are go getters, dude. And but even to this day, I noticed like as I moved around different states, PCS and whatnot in the military, permanent change of station. When I would get in the neighborhood, if I started cutting grass, right? So I cut my own grass. I will never pay anyone to cut my yard. It's
Right.
just my dad's like the first sign of giving up is like you start outsourcing things that you should be taking care of. And so to which my little brother would say, "Hey, I got enough zeros. I don't have to do it." But
Yeah, yeah.
but which I get that side too. But I would start cutting my grass, and if my neighbor dare come outside and cut his grass and fail to edge and blow and do the whole thing, oh man, we have a problem. We have a problem, right? And like, and I'm that guy, dude, that like I'm not gonna be subtle about it. I'm gonna address the problem by going back in, slamming a little bit more caffeine in whatever form that comes, crank up my edger, and start walking down your driveway to take care of the thing that either someone failed to teach you or that you thought you were gonna get tomorrow, right?
Oh, that's
Yes, my
funny.
neighbors love me, bro. The, but yeah, dude, and so I'd like I've always looked at things like that, right? Like, if you're gonna do it, then let's do it, like, all the way. No, let's not half-ass because all we're doing is creating more work later, right?
Right.
And I think probably the best answer to this, dude, is it Admiral McCraven? The Make Your Bed?
Make your bed. Yeah, yeah.
Such a
Yeah.
that is so spot on where I think, like, that's where we need to get people, right? To a
Mm.
place of understanding that it's just these are we're just knocking off these tasks, task orderly and discipline, which again, I understand that the guy that's commenting right now that's like, I don't need the edge every time I cut the grass or whatever. Sure, man, that's your prerogative. And I will admit that everything I'm saying is very in line with my personality and just who I am internally,
Mhm.
right? I like
Oh, yeah.
structure. I like, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that watching me in high
Right.
school.
Exactly. No, honestly, one of the things I mean, yeah, there's no doubt. I think you have something that clicks with hard work, physical energy, because of those things. But I would almost argue I think the more time I spent around you, it was more of like you just figured out, like it wasn't, some things just need brute force. Like there's only one way to get this done. We gotta just, pull your
Yeah.
pants up and get
Yeah.
after it. But I feel like I'm gonna tell a story and then I'm gonna try to connect some
Oh,
dots that I think happened. But I think along the way you probably figured out there's a lot of different ways to get things done. But I guess the point I wanted to highlight is like you always seem to be able to just make things happen. And I'll tell a funny story. And for the life of me, I couldn't remember what I was actually trying to get done. But so the all the facts might not be relevant to the story, but the general idea is. So I come in. I remember one day I came into work somewhat like depressed or upset about. I was trying to get, in the military to get anything done, you need like 10,000. No, you probably need like 10 people to sign off from probably like all different corners of the base and all these right people to do thing. And that's like your approval. Like, all right, yeah, here, this, everybody signed off to me to do this thing. And I was always trying to like extend and weasel around my way to stay in the Air Force or something. I'm pretty sure it was for me to extend. So I came in like, dang, man, I'm not going to be able to, get this extension in. I'm like bitching about couldn't get this guy to sign this or that. And
I
he
remember
kind of
this.
comes in. Yeah, you probably remember where this is
I was
going.
in Ranger panties.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
there it comes.
Yeah.
So yeah, he comes in like, and if you haven't ever seen Cotten right after coming from the gym, he takes excessive amounts of caffeine and
Copious.
yeah, and just he's a wild guy. But yeah, so he comes into the office, Ranger panties. If you don't know what those are, very small shorts, super sweaty, just gym workout style, drinking like a post workout or something like that. I'm like, damn, man, like I thought I was gonna be able to do X, Y, and Z, and anyway, grand story's like, come on, hop in the truck. And we went over. I think we had to go to like MPF, or we had to get like 3 different places. And then the final thing was to get this other guy's squadron commander to sign off on me doing whatever X thing.
Indeed.
So we hop in the truck. Yeah, no, we go over and it was the same, I think it was like a tech sergeant or something, big fat tech sergeant sitting in her comfy chair that she sits in all day, ready to tell me like, nope, we can't do it because this thing. We walk in, kind of cut through the whole line. Cotton's still in his Ranger panties. And I feel like I don't.
Respectfully cut through.
Yeah, respectfully, he's something about, and this is what I want to read something out of this book here in a second. But I think I don't know. Only certain people can probably do this thing. But he's like, "Hey, man," just super loud. He walks like behind her desk, like bends over at her desk. It's like, "Hey, man, you see right here, this thing right here." I basically point. She's just so overwhelmed. She don't know what the hell just hit her. He's like, "I need you to sign right here and do this." So he's got to. I mean, you hit all the facts, but it was just like I think you about knocked her out of her seat just with all your energy coming in there. And no shit, she signed the damn paper. The thing that I just sat patiently in line for, sat in my chair, waited for my number to get called to get told to go piss off. And then, so I got that signature. Then I'm like, damn, but now we got to track this commander down. He's not going to sign it. Trying to get in touch with the commander too. You got to have a damn
You're supposed to
permission
go
slip.
through the aid. You're supposed to, schedule a
Yeah.
time.
So
Yeah.
this is what you see where I'm going here. Make a
Yeah.
long story short, we did the exact same scenario in this commander's office, blew right past his secretary. I mean, at this time, what you're like, I mean, no one even knew what rank he was because he just
Yeah.
owned it. But the thing is, like, to hear the story, you think like he's barging in, like, oh, like angry. Dude, people were smiling, super happy. Like the secretary's like, oh yeah, yeah, I get like smiling, like I guess you can go in and we go in. He barges up to the commander, hey sir, respectfully, but loud. Hey, we got this and that. Here's what happened to him, and he's like, oh sure, Cotton, like anything for you, buddy. Like how can I do this?
He
And I'm
was
just sitting
cool
here
then.
like, what the hell am I doing wrong?
What's
Like, what have
happening?
I not figured out in life yet? And so that, like, I feel like anybody, I mean, not anybody, like it says something to be able to work hard and get after it and do that thing. But to have the other side where you like somehow you have like, a way to deal with people, like where that's the part that I want to dig into. What the hell is that? And like, how do you figure out this way of just like making shit happen with people?
Man, this is such a great so I'm gonna add some details to your story because they're prevalent. And one of which, Tyler's a boss and anyone would be an idiot not to have them not only on the team, but probably leading it. And you were trying to extend, you were desperately needed amongst our community. Just seeing the program from where it came to where we had it currently, because we had added at that time, we had really added a lot of depth to that program, and history is valuable when you start stacking things on, because inevitably when something crashes, you need to revert back and do a hard reset to get things going again, and if you don't have anyone around that remembers when, well, then it's rough to understand what you need to go back to. So again, I cannot exaggerate enough. We're talking about a key player, right? And so, one, there's ammo right there, right? I'm not coming in trying to save a scrub or somebody that is a known, like, they failed their PT test multiple times. They look like shit in a uniform. You're like, the only thing they really know how to do is get off base to go home, right? So I am walking around trying to help out a superstar. Makes life way easier, right? So I know that. I have that in my head. Like, that's just to put you in my thought process, right? That's how I'm
Mhm.
entering the room, knowing that, like, hey, I'm vouching for the dude. So this is easy,
Mm.
right? Because no one wants to see the man leave, right? And details that we're just talking about, this goes right back to this. It's what they're trying to do. The doe's just trying to do, because there's a clear understanding of government work. This was on a Thursday, right?
Mhm.
Uh, all work, and we're talking about, we're having to deal with administrative people, right? Not a stab at administrative people. Everyone needs them, just like we need the trash man. Someone has to be the trash. We need it, but uh, not typically a very motivated career field, because it does suck. You're staring, crunching numbers every day. Everybody's got the same problem, the same, everybody needs da 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 da. And for the most part, the people that they're having to deal with haven't done their side of the work,
Mm.
right? And so I get that. However, we're special. I'm with the dude, and he's definitely already crossed his T's, dotted his I's. We just need some scribbles, and we've already taken care of everything else. So to me, this is all common sense. This is 2 plus 2 equals 4. No big deal, right? We're not going to come in with this arithmetic problem because this dude's a jerk off and doesn't have his cards in order, right? And so that's how I'm entering this. We also are coming in after the 11 o'clock. Like, these cats are about to go to lunch and never be seen again, right? And they had already wanted to roll my dude to the right. Well, we know what comes after Thursday. That's Friday. And ain't
Oh.
shit fixing to happen on a Friday. So I knew it's like crunch time. It's now or never, right? And they wanted us to come back after lunch. Fool me once, dude. So I knew better than that, right? So we had to get that signature. And so, yeah, I probably came in a little over the top, but I'm a Southern gentleman, dude. Pleasantries are a real thing, dude. There's a reason Chick-fil-A kills it. You can act like
Oh, yeah.
you don't like the lingo that they use and da 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 da. Get off it, dude. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Please and thank you will open so many doors, right? It's what is that? It's some kind of crap about easier with honey.
Oh, yeah, what is it? You track more flies with honey than you do with
Yes.
vinegar or something like that? Yeah.
Yes. So, right. So, yeah. So, came through the door hot and heavy. Yes, a little bit of a, distraction with Ranger Penny sweat, eyes peered wide open on at least 400 milligrams of caffeine and lots of beta-alanine, but came in, laid out the picture. Again, to me, this is all respectfully, "Hey, ma'am, please, if you don't mind, blah, blah, blah. Yes, smart kid, everything's already in a row. See, we've done the legwork. We've done our
Right.
part. I just need a scribble." Boom. Now the commander thing, not gonna lie, that one, when we were heading over there, because one, we had to find the SOB, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, and that proved to be a little more challenging. And then, I mean, it is a known thing, especially in the military, right? Like, you don't just, because we were outsiders, remember? Because
Let's
he
say I
was
was gonna say for context, we're like a part of this special squadron, but we had to go to like a normal squadron. Like we had to track down
Yes.
all this
We
crap
had to
and
go talk to a
yeah.
boss that didn't know us from Adam. right? Had never met me, had probably heard about Tyler through
No,
awards
yeah,
or something.
I think he had flown with you at some point because at the end, he was like, I don't know. Anyway,
Oh,
continue
well,
on, but
maybe
yeah, I remember
yeah,
towards the end, he was like, "Ah, man, I know you, man. I've
yeah.
heard about you or something," but you guys were
Maybe
best
I
friends when
built
we were
some kind
leaving
of
the
rapport.
office.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's part of the so to get to your point, right? That's part of the I don't wanna say game because it really is. It's just who I am.
Let me
I
let me
love
let me
people.
let me pause you here. I'm gonna read something. So this comes from a book. It's kind of a sales book. I'm gonna pause you there. I'm gonna read something, and then I wanna see if you think there's any truth to this.
Okay.
I read this probably a year and a half ago, like, before we even started, like, chatting all this much, and as soon as I read this, I was like, "Dang, that's how Cotton does all this shit." So let's see if you and this deep. I'm just going to read an excerpt about one little piece. So he starts off talking about how people have like, three portions of your brain. You have like the neocortex, which is like the smart analytical side. But then like what makes most decisions for people is their croc brain. It's their survival instinct. It's like immediately their croc brain's like, is this important? Should I run, hide, or just ignore it? And a lot of times it tries to just ignore stuff. So then he goes into this. He says, imagine for a moment that there is some kind of powerful energy field that surrounds all of us, silently transmitting from the depths of our subconscious. This invisible defense shield is genetically designed to protect our conscious minds from sudden intrusion by ideas, perspectives that are not our own. When that energy field is overwhelmed, however, it collapses. Our mental defenses fail. We become subject to another person's ideas, desires, commands. That person can impose his will. In this context, he's talking about sales. All right, just a couple more pieces here. So he calls this frame or this like bubble, this energy bubble that surrounds every single person. He calls it frames, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Frames are extremely competitive. Remember, they are rooted in our survival instincts and they seek to sustain dominance. When frames come together, the first thing they do is collide. This isn't a friendly competition, it's a death match. They collide, and the stronger frame absorbs the weaker frame. If your frame wins, you'll enjoy frame control where your ideas are accepted, followed by others. But if your frame loses, though, you'll be at the mercy of someone else and basically at their will. He goes on to talk about all these different frames you can have, but he digs deep in this portion of like it's this bubble. Anytime you either walk past somebody on the street, you say hi to somebody, like your bubble collides with theirs, and like the more energy, high energy, more dominant frame, like you end up subconsciously like you feel like who's in charge and who has that. And I feel like, I mean, you're a person that when you walk in a room or you like just start having a conversation, I don't know what it is, but something emanates for you, just like people kind of stop what they're saying and listen to what you're saying. I don't know. When I read that, like you came to mind as a person who I feel like seems to have a way about grabbing that dominant frame and somehow get your way with getting a lot of stuff done that you need to do. So, what are your thoughts on any of that?
I I think this thought, right, goes great with the if you ever heard the question, like, the difference between a leader and a manager,
Oh yeah,
r
heard that
right?
before. Yeah.
And it's, obviously, like so anyone can manage a group of people, a task or whatever, right? And you could just pull out the instruction manual and go line by line, right? And make
Right.
sure,
Right.
yeah, the ABC get done, da, 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 da. There's a huge difference, though, getting someone excited about line 1, line 2,
Right.
making them
Right.
enthusiastic about getting it to and making that experience, like, enjoyable, right?
Mhm.
Uh, which is typically what separates that leader from a manager is strictly for them. I mean, when you get down to, like, just the bare essentials, right? Nuts and bolts, without getting in detail, it's enthusiastic personality versus, like, the guy that's like, "Meh." And that's because eh, a lot of times that's how they feel about the task, right?
Mhm.
It is I will tell you, it is very hard, and don't think I don't have my days. There's plenty of days I go in to train a cat where my wife has just handed my whole ass to me, right? Like, you know what I mean? Just and it's Tyler, it's not even damn 8 o'clock, right? I just
Uh,
finished my coffee and, she's pissed all in it. And I have to go in and that is the job of a strength coach, right? Like I've said this before, where I'm their number one cheerleader. I am there
mhm.
to motivate and bring that. that they essentially lack themselves, right? Or they
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't need me. And then along with the, the science and stuff, all the skill set of it. But for the most part, I'm there to inspire and accountability, right? And so there are several days where I walked out the door, wife's just crapped all over me, and now I gotta sit here and act like I'm the happiest person alive and so excited to be there for this person that, dude, maybe I God, I want any of my clients to watch this and think I'm not talking about you, whoever's watching, right? I'm not talking about you. This
It's
is
the
this
other guy.
yeah, it's the other guy, right? But and maybe I'm with that person that I know doesn't even wanna be there anyways, especially like my
Mhm,
juniors whose parents are just forcing them to come, right?
mhm,
Uh, and now I have to turn it on. And so
mhm,
I think I think that that's because the question that comes back and forth, right, is like there's a very identifiable difference between the leader and the manager. But the argument
mhm,
is, are leaders born or can
mm,
they be created? Right.
mhm.
And I would weigh in on the side that mostly that's just like an innate, because to circle back to what you're saying, dude, I think I come through so good to people because it's authentic. I'm not
Mhm.
I'm not I am who I am, and I am a little over the top. I do speak louder than most because I'm deaf and tone deaf, and so that generally, like, even when hell, I've even had my kids, like, we're in the store. Dude, Ty almost broke my throat a couple of days ago because I tried to whisper something to him about this dude that is, you know, like a couple of arms length away from us. And dude, he just goes and walks
Right.
off. And I was like, what? And he's like, I know you thought you just whispered that to me. They heard you. Like they undeniably they heard you. And
Yeah.
which is, then I just resort to authentic me of like, well, I'm gonna stand on business because all I'm doing is saying
Right.
objective information here. I'm sorry about
Right.
that. But so it's super funny to me, dude, that when people, I mean, you're not the first one to say that to me. And it's what I think is hilarious, dude, is like I don't really see it like other people do.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't think you're definitely not trying, like, it's not any, like, "Alright, here, I'm gonna go in and use this tactic," like, you're just shoot from the hip, guns blazing, like, I
I
don't
will I will tell you, and I don't know where, like, the derivative. I don't know, where it came from, but so with a lot of the special ops jobs and stuff, that part of that process, right, is you have to go talk to the site. So I've sat down with at least 4 psychiatrists over the course of my career in the military, and for whatever reason, dude, I was always the kid. This is supposed to be like an hour-long thing max, dude, and every time going through selection processes and stuff, I was always in there like 2 hours, every time. And
Oh,
I
god.
I I finally asked one site, dude, I think it was my last one at the 6th Special Operations Squadron. I was like, "Before we get started, like, we should get some water, and, like, just I'm gonna use the bathroom. I'll be back, but, like, I need an empty bladder and some water because my mouth is gonna dry up because 'cause you're gonna have me just yapping, and da 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 da." And this lady goes, "No, no, this is only 45 minutes tops." And I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. This is my 4th go. Can I go to the bathroom and get some water?" And she's like, "Absolutely." 2 hours later, I was like,
She'd
"What
probably
is it?"
stopping you like, "Can I go to the bathroom?"
Dude, she I think she did have to go to the bathroom, and her, like, sit-in, she was like, "Can you go through these?" Because there's, like, standard questions, right? Everybody has to answer. It's like, and she's like, "Can you basically, like, finish the preliminaries, and then I'll come back for this
Mhm.
obviously deeper seated
Yeah.
thing that we need to explore here." And, and so we get towards the I can I can sense where we're wrapping it up. And I will say that too. My whole family, dude, my brother and my mom are sharper than me. Uh, but I've always I consider myself really good at at reading folks. Right. I've always understood body language and all the nonverbals. Right. And so
Mhm.
I'm not that guy that you're leaving, your hands on the doorknob, and I'm just blah, 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 blah. Obviously, you're trying to go,
Right.
right? It's like that. You heard the comedian that's I can't remember his name, but his little sketch is he's like, "Don't you hate that damn guy?" You're walking, you're like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" And they give you a real answer. And it's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
asshole, I have things to do. I'm not really concerned with these are
Just
just
trying to be nice,
pleasantries.
man.
I'm just trying to be polite. Let me get to it, dude." And he's
Oh my
like,
god.
but so I've always had that for what and honestly, I think that's much like you. I think that's from us running in various circles and
Yeah.
dealing, you know what I mean, with different social groups extensively. And so I always had that little gift in my pocket. And so I can sense that we're coming to the end of this interview. And I'm like, hey man, before you put a bow on this, right? And so here we are, as I told you we would be. I don't care. Like, I'll stay here another
Mm.
hour. It matters not to me. Like, I enjoyed the conversation. I just want to know why, like
Right.
repeatedly. And so, and obviously, like, I'm the common denominator. Of why is that?
Mhm.
And dude, she said the most like two of them told me this. Now, I tried to pull it out of her more of just to like kind of confirm what the other guy had said. But and both of them, equated it to basically I was this screw up, like, really just, like, way off the mark, practicing insanity over and over again, constantly getting arrested for the same bullshit, running with wild ass people, and they were trying to figure out, like, what's that light switch? And how do you flip that for someone, right? How do you
Uh-huh.
go from this, like, almost focus-driven path of destruction, right, to, "Hey, I'm gonna get it together and, like, be an actual productive member of society," you know? And to which for me, I told him every time we started going down that rabbit hole, dude, that, like, I think the biggest and this again points directly back to my upbringing for the most part, is what we talked about before. Dude, I always knew, always, I was probably gonna screw up most things because my curiosity, like, I can't help it. Like,
Mhm.
I want to be involved. I want to know. I want to, that one little flashy thing, dude. And I have a very addictive personality, right? And make no mistake, I'm talking about like an addict, right? So like I felt like if I pointed this at something unhealthy, then that was going to be that, right? But luckily
Oh,
for
yeah.
me, I always knew because I don't think we have like to an extent, yes. When we start talking drugs, and there's a chemical reaction that's going on with addiction, but with
Mhm.
like alcoholism and other bad things, porn addiction, stuff like that, right? Like I think we do a bad job at labeling there when really the thing is that we're just talking about an addict personality. I think if that is aimed at something productive, right, then that can be a beneficial trait,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And
100%.
so, I mean, dude, I pointed it at working out and have been on it so long. I've made it my profession.
Yeah.
But so I was explaining to the psych that like I always knew, dude, that like dad was a big deal to me, was gonna be a big deal to me. And I
Mhm.
and I realized early on like the influence of a father figure, right?
Mhm.
And the influence to some extent, dude, the influence of a coach. Like, that's probably my second favorite title that I hold. Dad's first, and I love when
Mhm.
people are like, "Hey, Coach Cotton." Like, it
Yeah.
just hearing it, right? Because I think I know I know what that means, right? It is a
Right.
position
Yeah.
of trust and, like, so, I take it very seriously, and So I told both of them, I was like, "Dude, when I have my daughter, game time." Like
Yeah.
I knew that there were some childish bullshit that I needed to cut out and fast because,
Uh-huh.
like I said, make no mistake, dude, addict. So when everybody else was just listening to Tupac,
You was right, you were taking notes.
I was trying to I was trying to make my own music video. So the point being, it's the same old, dude. Like I run everything into the ground because it's who I am. And so I told the site, like, I always knew that when the kids came, like, I was gonna be a parent, dude, right? I was gonna
Mhm.
put them above like things that I wanted to do. And and dude, I still try to do that. I still try to like I don't when my son gets home, like if he comes in the living room and I'm doing whatever, and he's like, "Hey, man, you want to watch it? We're big One Piece nerds." He's like, "Hey, whatever episode just got dubbed, you want to watch it?" Yeah. And even if I don't, dude, I still want to hang out with him, and
Right.
and so I do. But yeah, it was funny that they were like, "Yeah," and it's almost like they didn't even accept that answer because they're like, "Nah, dude, screw ups have kids every day. It can't be." And I was like, "Well, no, it's not. It's not the kid as much as the goal that you know what I mean? That
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
the goal. So there has to be a dude, this goes right back to when we were talking about that's why there's so many religions and that people have these like they reach for these external deep seated reasoning, right? That's like you gotta it goes back to those three things. You for people for whatever, right? For most people, right? You need to be able to explain origin, purpose,
Mhm.
next, right? And I think a lot of times where you see people who are really struggling, dude, they're struggling because they're probably in a job that they didn't want in the first place, right?
Mhm.
But they have to come up with some kind of economic earnings to stay alive, but they've yet to find out like what's that thing that I'm just really good at? Because
Mhm.
everybody's got that one little niche, right? That one little special it's just sometimes it's very hard to figure out how to monetize that, right?
Yeah.
Which
Oh, yeah, 100%.
which goes directly to my gripe with money,
Yeah.
directly. And we
Yeah, I
definitely
think
don't have time to get on that soapbox.
right, yeah, we'll carve that one out, but no, that's super I think that's super interesting that even, like, the psychs and everything picked up on that too. But I almost feel like you have and I feel like to an extent too, like, one thing we both have in common, kinda running in those colorful circles growing up.
Right,
It's almost like a bit of street smart that you learn how to use, in the professional world as well. Like, it's and one thing I think you said to me a while back, and, like, the way that I've tried to emulate this and see if you agree, when, like, trying to get stuff done, you're like, "People are people are people." Like, too many people see the go back to that same example, like I might have saw this, tech sergeant in her role sitting down. That I needed to talk to this tech sergeant, like this role, this title, where like you went up and like talked to her, like her name was Sarah, and like that she had a background, she had kids. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you connect with people as people first, and then like address the title. Where too many people do it the other way around, where it's like they get all rigid and robotic because they're talking to a commander where you're like, "Hey, Tom, help us figure this out, man. You're a guy too. You know how it would be to be in this position." And that's one thing that I've tried to do, like emulate that in the real world, like connect with people first, with where they are, establish some kind of relationship with them, and then see like how you might be able to like help each other out or form a connection going forward.
yeah, I think I now this I might do intentionally, and I wish I could tell you why, but I don't know, to be honest. But I always tried to I explain it all the time as pull the microscope away. I always try to like, let's look at the big picture here. And when I say
Hmm.
big picture, bro, I'm talking about like I'm gonna jump back on religion for just a second, and then I'm gonna go back to that commander for a second. From a religious aspect, man, I think it is a very dangerous game to especially for most, I'm just going to go with Christianity. It's what I know the most about. I've read the Quran. I've dipped in Buddhism, Hinduism, the caste systems, and all that. But I know the bulk about Christianity, and it even says in that book, dude, uh, that Jesus came in and called the preachers vipers. Uh, and said that they had used the good word as a tool for power to manipulate and control people. They even had the book written in different languages that your common people, blue collar folk like us, wouldn't have been able to read. So we have to just rely on this guy behind the podium because it's written in a language we're not educated enough to
Mm.
understand. And they're feeding us the lines, right? Of how to live and all
Yeah.
this, you know what I mean? Hey, big power move, right?
Right.
And what do you know? It sounds a lot like our Capitol Hill, right? And the Almighty came down and was like, "You guys are snakes, bro. You're using this to have your way." Just like people love to pull one-liners out of that book to benefit their conversation or argument, right?
Yeah.
Now, so I've always been conscious of the fact that, like, yeah, I'm attending this thing because, sorry, sis. I'm You'll see that Aubrey in the middle. But I'm attending this sermon, this lesson, this whatever, right? I've always felt like highly, right, highly important for me to do my own homework because at the end of the day, that's just a dude. Yeah, his title's
Mm.
this teacher of this religion and this practice, right? But he's still a dude, bro. If I stab
Mhm.
him in the neck, he will spill out blood, right? Just like I would. There's nothing special, right? And if I stripped him down in front of the altar, he's going to cover up his junk as quick as possible because he too would be embarrassed just like any other man, right? And I'm using these absurd examples because that's what sticks in people's brain, right? That's how the
Right,
brain
right, right.
works. We love explicit and over the top crap, right? Now, going back to this commander, dude, let me tell you a little secret about commanders, especially if someone I've been side by side with some pretty big names, Admiral McCraven, General Votel, like some powerhouses, right? That are considered like
Like
these
celebrities to everybody in the,
yeah, like these
DOD, yeah.
prestigious leaders, right? Like these will be the people that when we have a damn problem, and I can't stand when this happens. When we're having this world problem 10 years from now, they'll bring Votel on Fox News and they'll be like, "Well, General, what do you think we should do with our military?" Da, 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 da." Well, one, let me tell you, he's not read onto the program anymore. He doesn't know the situation, doesn't know the assets that we have. Stop asking these old has-beens. They're
Right.
not in the game, dude. They're not in the game, right? They're just wearing their big old hat talking about the good old days, right? It is
Uh,
useless conversation. I hate when they bring those dudes on like their opinion is relevant. It's not. They're not in
right.
the program. They don't know, right? They just rolled out of the VFW half hammered. Like, come on. So that commander dude, when we bust in that dude's office, what separates him between us?
Little couple bars or whatever he's got on, yeah.
A degree, a
Yeah,
piece
fair
of
enough.
paper. That's it. Dude, I have 2 pieces of paper now. They're useless. Do you know why I'm good at what I do? Not because I went to school, bro. Yeah, I learned some things, but it was mostly refreshers from things I'd looked up on my own already because I'm interested in the subject matter. I'm the
Mhm.
best at what I do because I didn't stop there. I continue to dig any new things that
Right.
come in. I plow down there, right? I'm on YouTube. I'm listening to podcasts that have to do with my craft. I'm practicing my craft. I'm gaining experience.
Mm.
It wasn't school was the tool that I had to go through and use to get the interview, right?
It's
Because I
like
had to
table
pay.
stakes.
Yes,
Yeah.
dude. I had to pay my dues to get some letters behind my name so someone would talk to me and then find out
Mhm.
that I'm only good at what I do because of the life journey that I've had. Nothing to do
Mhm.
with the academic institution. Now, for
From
all the scholars out there who live, I'm not saying that we don't need school, we don't need to teach none of that. Books are useful, that knowledge is power, blah, blah, blah. Right? I agree. All I'm saying is If you think that your 4 drunken years of college makes you better at sending dudes into war than me,
Mhm.
it's a slippery slope, bro. And I've always kind of kept that in the back of my head. And I was on a team where it was me and 4 other officers for a long time. And I had a even deeper look into, bro, that dude's just as scared as I am for whatever mission we're about to do. And oftentimes I was the tactical expert on the team. And so they're turning to me like, hey, what do
Mhm.
you think we should grab? You think we should take this and this and this, or is this da 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 da, right? And that experience, like, really kind of even further cemented my views that I had, because those dudes approached me as a man, not as Sergeant such and such. Da, 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 da. We're going out to do something that if it goes south, dude, like, we're about to be on a flat playing field for sure. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody gonna give a
Yeah.
damn what rank we got on. It's like, hey, I have this gaping hole in one of my limbs and I need your help. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And
Yeah, I
so
want
I
No,
just
go ahead.
to get off of it. Yeah, dude. So I've always been mindful of, and some of it's just my rebellious nature too, dude. I admittedly have always had a problem with authority, but and that is because, right, I'm constantly operating in this world where I realize, like, how do I say this without sounding like I don't wanna, I wanna be honest here, and it does come across kinda arrogant, but I don't mean it in that context. What I mean is, you're no important than I am, just like I'm not any more special than you are, right?
Right.
I have things that are special, that identify me, right? And you have things that are special to you that give your identity. But when
Mhm.
we're just talking nuts and bolts, dude, you're a man just like I'm a man. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
the the only reason we piss different colors is because hydration is important to me. But we both got to go to the bathroom either way. You know?
Uh, that's hilarious. Yeah, no, I think I almost wondering, like, that experience probably coming from those teams and that environment where 'cause I think in the spec ops community, rank is much less significant, than that. Isn't that ironic that the people that are actually doing the important shit don't care, but then they come over to paper pusher world and it's like, "Doot, doot, doot, doot," you
Well,
got
because
you
they
know?
recognize what's important, right? And when you're talking ranking stuff, then we're on the hall monitor level, right? It's that damn kid. They're like, why did anyone give Ricky the damn reflective belt? He's out here again acting like he rules the world, and that's what tend to happens in these, like, conventional settings. Whereas in the special operations side, oddly enough, dude, one of the special operations truth is to remember that you're not special and you have to lean on conventional forces for support to get your mission done.
Mhm.
So it's very good at keeping humility in check, right? And
Right.
what's more prevalent in that realm is skill set and experience.
Yeah, that is crazy. But I think maybe, in interest of kind of wrapping this up, some practical advice that I think seeing you go do that, and that was just one example. Like, there's several stories of, like, you just figuring out some way to make shit happen. But I think, taking that, I took that forward, and you can translate commander to CEO, vice president, whoever, leader of whatever tribe you're trying to do something with. Like, if you can ignore that and talk to people like they're a person, like they're a dad going home to their kids, they got the same motivations as you. They say everybody has beliefs, desires that they want. If you can approach somebody in that way, I've found, and like, to your credit, to, like, show me, like, what's possible when you do that. Like, you can get a lot more done. I mean, whether you're trying to close a deal, whether you're trying to, buy a house from somebody, or just, get an appointment at a congested doctor's office, no matter what you're trying to do, like, if you can find common ground with somebody and talk to them like a person, like, for one, most people don't get approached like that. So you're going to catch them off guard.
Correct. Oh,
And
you
I think
beat me
that's
to
something
it.
like what that frame thing to me kind of says. Like, people get so robotic and their brain is so used to tuning people out when, like, they are, like, hit with something like that, or someone actually is nice to the server or nice to the customer service person. Like, you're gonna make someone's day. You're gonna catch them way off guard, and they're gonna be way more likely to actually help you, do what you need to accomplish. But
I would
Parting
propose a
thoughts?
challenge. I would propose a challenge, dude, that's even harder than that. So, one, you're spot on, right? Like, people when you're able to meet people where they're at, these are all, like, things we heard as children, right? Treat others how you wanna be treated kinda thing, you know? If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. But and these are things that have made it generations and generations, these little sayings, because they're true, dude, and they work. But the harder challenge, and man, when you get good at this, the world opens up. Try to remember that same thing, right? The person you're talking to is a person just like you are. And just like you said, with those same motivators and problems and all that,
Mhm.
right? And the harder thing is when you approach someone and they do come off sideways, before and this is extremely hard for me, dude, but I have as I've gotten older, I've been able to dial it back, and a lot of that is me just trying to decompress the way I came up from some of my influencers around me. But the when someone does come back with that snide comment or that, whatever that pisses you off instantly, trying to catch your breath for just a second to realize that, like, yeah, today's Friday and you're trying to get to your weekend, but it could be a real damn Monday for them, you know?
Yeah.
You never like
Yeah.
people always get pissed off. My favorite example is like the on the highway, right? Somebody speeds by someone. One, if you're the asshole in the left lane that refuses to realize that's the passing lane, this is your fault. And everyone retains the right to flip you the bird and say whatever, move over. But if someone does cut you off and speeds off somewhere, everybody's immediate response is F that guy, girl, it, they, she, cat, whatever, right? And I hope they find a tree in the median on the way, right? The reality is you don't know that they didn't just get the news that their kids fell out at the house and is slowly
Mm.
dying, and they're trying to make it there for the last little bit of time they're gonna have with them, or they just got let out of jail and they're going to off the snitch at whatever house.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
people are living lives around you, and I think so often, man, we forget that this ain't our movie. We're not the main character. We're all in this
Mhm.
together, and, like, there is life that is happening all around us at different speeds, different intensities, and it's just it is so and again, this is me pulling that microscope back, right? And
Mhm.
trying to expand my aperture and keep in the back of my mind that, like, hey man, this ain't for me, right? I'm
Mhm.
sharing this with people. And I think
Mm.
when you approach someone, because sure, man, you could just be dealing with an asshole because they're out there, right?
Right.
But it costs nothing to respond back with a smile or a, "Hey, man, I hope your day gets better. You're obviously having a bad day." And let me tell you too,
Mm.
that's a velvet dagger that's fun to poke, uh,
Mhm.
and you lose nothing there, right? Uh, because sometimes just drawing that simple fact that, like, hey, you have what is it, RBF and your tone, right? Like, could either wake them up so at least the next person gets a better thing than you. But uh yeah, dude, no, I think we all need to remember that, like, as much as we wish it weren't, like, we're all in this together, dude. And it ain't about what you want, it's about what you can do and what you can help out with.
Yeah. That's a fact, man, and I've incorporated that in my life too, 'cause I used to be hot-headed, and the crazy thing is, it's like, you think, like, when you say, like, "Oh, I'm just gonna, like, let this guy over and, like, give him the smile, the velvet dagger," you think you're doing that for them, but then once you do that a couple times, you realize, like, you're doing that for you, like, it
Yep.
there's no like, I used to get angry and, like, it's like, "Why is my heart rate elevating? Because this
Correct.
guy wants to be a crazy man." Now I'm just so you're actually doing yourself a favor,
You are, you're
but
extending your life because being pissed off and stressed out kill you quicker than cancer.
that is a fact. In the interest of wrapping, I have just popped into me in this episode. I have a cool story that's gonna connect lots of dots and share this thing together. It's a different cool story than I had planned, but cool
Hell yeah.
story. So when Cotton and I were in Charleston, He one day asked me like, "Do you fish?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I put a worm on a bobber and can throw it out in the lake and wait for that bobber to just take off." I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty boring, man." He's like, "No, man, we gotta go bass fishing." So anyway, he teaches me like how to bass fish and all the tricks, etc. So, but our favorite thing to do was go to like not a place where you could legally fish. We go to like these ponds that were like we like spent time on Google Maps. Like, dude, it looks like there's a pond back here. If we like park on the side of the road, hike up this hill, we can make it over to this pond.
Oh,
And
Christian Reed's gonna love this story.
oh yeah, the running joke. I think it was Chris Reed always like that pond ain't got no fish in it. It's like any any pond on a map has fish in it, and we had to go test it out, and they all did somehow. So anyway, to connect some dots to this story, they're down in Charleston, South Carolina. If you're familiar now, there's a big Boeing plant, right by the Air Force Base. They built these big retention ponds, and like this is like fairly new construction. Like these ponds weren't even there that long, so we were like, we're gonna go test. I guarantee there's no fish in that pond. Like it's brand new. How could there possibly be fish in there? So anyway, we go out and
Toad.
fish. Somehow there were freaking like dog sized
Monsters, bro. Toad.
bass in this little pond. To connect the dots back to this podcast. So anyway, we're I mean, and just nailing them. Like I don't think they've ever seen anybody fishing there before. So we're just getting after it. Well, it didn't take long for like the blue and red lights start flashing. Bloop, bloop. And security's coming down, these cop or whatever. But like, so for me, I'm like, oh shit, let me like hurry up, get my stuff. Let me pack it out of here. But kind of like, he just keeps casting. The guy's talking to him. He's like, hey man, you should see the size fish in this pond. And I mean, sure enough, this cop comes out. He's like, really? Like, let me see what you guys catching or whatever. And like, they get, we went from probably getting like put in handcuffs to like, this guy's like, all right, a couple more casts. You guys got about 10 minutes and you got to get out of here. And
He
so
gave us
perfect
an
example.
exact timeline for when the real law was gonna show up.
Yeah, yeah. So, perfect example, like, he could have been a pure like, he was probably on the verge of, like, a certain dominance but it's like, you addressed him like a man, talked about the fish, showed him what was up, and, he probably went down there the next day and
Hell
caught some
yeah,
of
he
them fish,
did, dude.
dude.
He was like, "What bait are you using?" 5-inch
Right.
black swim Cinco, Texas rigged. He's like, "Noted."
So but yeah, I mean, I still got that was actually the biggest bass I've caught still to date. I mean, I don't fish a lot, a ton anymore as much as I would like to, but that was a fun day for sure.
Yeah, it was. It
But
was.
in interest of wrapping up, any parting thoughts from you?
No, I would like to apologize because, I mean, we this was a great topic, and everything we said, we made it sound fairly easy, but make no mistake, right? These practices are easier said than done because at the end of the day, we are all human, and people do reserve the right for a bad day, but it's helpful if we can try to not make it worse.
Mm. Yeah, and I think with that, I mean, it is hard because I don't think it's natural tendency, but if you just spend 5 seconds and, like, try to think, like, "How do I intentionally respond?" or "How do I intentionally do something?" versus just, complete gut reaction every time, typically have a better outcome. So, let
Agreed.
us know if you got value out of this or you're gonna take something away and go try it out. Try it at your coffee shop, whatever. Start small. You're probably gonna mess it up, but get out there and practice, man. With that, I appreciate you guys watching. We'll catch you next time.